In this video, I will show you how to solve algebraic equations to determine market clearing equilibrium price and quantity, and then we would look at how to determine the impact of price floor set by the government and how much would it cost for the price supporting program by the government. So what I'm showing here is a problem that we looked at in the class, and if you didn't follow through, you can watch this video as many times as you want. So we're talking about considering a potato market with the demand curve given as P equals 40 minus 2Q demanded, and the supply curve is given by P equals 10 plus 2Q supplied. They both are linear curves. And suppose the government implements a price floor saying that you cannot sell below $30 so that the suppliers get a pretty good price. And our job is to calculate the market price if there was no price floor between this demand equation and supply equation, what the equilibrium price would be. And question B would be, how many pounds of potato will be supplied if the price was raised to $30 instead of the market clearing price? And at the same price, how much would the consumer demand? That's the question C. And then question D is calculate the difference between what consumer demands versus what the supplier is supplying. That would be the excess supply. And then let's just see that excess supply would be purchased by the government at a price they set as a floor, $30. How much would it cost? And the other task we have to do is draw a graph to illustrate all of that. Here I have drawn the graph for the potato market, and I also wrote the demand curve. P equals 40 minus 2Q demanded. Supply is equal to P equals 10 plus 2Q supplied. As you notice, minus 2 is the slope for the demand curve, plus 2 is the slope for the supply curve. Supply curve has a positive relationship, demand curve has an inverse relationship, so negative slope. And the intercept for the demand curve is 40, so it intercepts the price axis at $40. And supply curve has an intercept of $10, so it intercepts at $10, and it has a slope of 2. So I've drawn those two curves, and they intersect at the market equilibrium price and quantity, and we're going to solve that equation to find out where it actually will end up. By looking at this picture, I can see it's about $25 is where it clears, and it supplies, market is willing to supply about 7.5. Let's see if we could solve that by this equation. At market clearing price, the price is P star, some unknown price for us right now, let's say. And at the market clearing quantity, let's call it Q star. So on the red line, supply line, you could plug in for Q. Q star is the number. And at this point, the price on supply curve would be P star. Similarly, on the demand curve, the price would be P star on the blue line, and the quantity would be Q star. So they both share the same P star and Q star at the market clearing point. So here I substituted P as P star in the demand line, and I wrote the demand line as 40 minus 2Q star. Let's call that as equation 2. And then in the supply curve, I substituted P star for P. P star equals 10 plus 2Q star. Let's call it equation 1. Now we need to solve between this equation 1 and 2 to determine what P star is and Q star is. And one way to do that would be, let's just subtract equation 2 from equation 1. When I do that, this would become 4Q star, and this would become minus 30, and that would be equal to 0, because 2Q star minus 2Q star would be 4Q star. 10 minus 40 would be minus 30. P star minus P star would be 0. Now rearranging the equation, just moving the 30 to the left hand side, I would get a plus 30, that is equal to 4Q star then you could say Q star is equal to 30 divided by 4. That would be equal to 7.5. And that is exactly what we see on the graph. Market clears at 7.5. What is the market clearing price? Oh, to figure out the price, we can take one of these equations and substitute the Q star in it and calculate the P star. So if I took the supply curve, that would say P star is equal to 10 plus 2Q star. That Q star, we know it is 7.5, so I substitute for 2Q star 7.5, then I end up with 10 plus 15, that is equal to 25. So that gives us the market clearing price. So we know P star is 25, and we know Q star is 7.5. That's what market wants to clear. But let's say government does not want to leave it at 25 because they want to support the supplier, so they set the floor at $30. Then the question is, well, how much will the consumer want at this point, and how much the supplier is willing to supply? Obviously, they are supplying a lot more than what the consumer wants, so there is going to be a surplus, and that is what the government says I will buy, right? So we have to figure out how much this is. So to figure the demand at the price of $30, I simply take the demand equation, and which is 40 minus 2QD, and then I say price is equals 30, and that is equal to 40 minus 2QD. So let's solve for QD. So rearranging the equation, I can move the 2QD to the left hand side, so that would become a positive 2QD demand. And then that would be 40 minus 30 moving to the right hand side would be minus 30. So that would result in 10 equals 2Q demand, or Q demand is equal to 10 divided by 2, that is equal to 5. So the answer would be consumers would demand about 5. So now let's calculate what a supply would be at $30. A supply at $30 would be, once again, the supply curve is P equals 10 plus 2Q supply. If price is $30, we're going to solve for Q supplied. And once again, rearranging, that would be 30 minus 10 would be equal to 2Q supplied. So that would say 2Q supplied is equal to 20. Our Q supplied here would be 10. So that tells us the Q supplied at $30 would be 10, but the consumers demand only 5. So the surplus would be 10 supplied minus 5 demanded, so you end up with a surplus of 5 units. And the government says it would buy that 5 units at a price of $10. So it is at a price of $30. So 5 units bought at $30 cost would cost the government $150. So going back to our problem, what is the cost to support that program, which is basically buying 5 units at $30? We just calculated that, and we calculated the excess supply, the demand at the floor price, all of that. Let's just see the picture, how to shade that particular area where the government is. So now that we know mathematically it costs $150 or 150 million, whatever we want to call it, we can graphically show that from here to here is the excess quantity that the government is buying, and at a price of $30, which is basically a rectangular part that can be illustrated with the green color. Let's say I could just say from 5 to like right here. By the way, this is supposed to be 10 units right there. My graph is not quite right, but it is going from 5 units to 10 units. So it's 5 to 10, obviously there. So we're buying 5 units surplus, 10 minus 5, at a price of $30. So this particular rectangle would be the shaded area that government would be buying, government cost. So this is what you're expected to do when you're asked this kind of question.